Okay, we're here today with Mitch Davis, our cycling specialist physiotherapist here at Physiologic, and today we're going to talk about running as a potential cross-training activity for cyclists. So Mitch, is this a good idea?
I think when it's done properly, it probably is. Many people around here would have maybe heard me referring to running as the devil, but in all honesty I think it does have some good benefits for cyclists, yep.
Excellent. So what are some of those positive effects?
I think from a postural point of view, it can really help load our postural strength system, which we don't always do on the bike. So cycling, we're sitting basically, sitting on the seat, resting our hands on the handlebars and not necessarily loading a lot of our postural muscles, whereas with running it's obviously an upright activity. Get a lot of those natural instinctive postural patterns kicking back in as a result. On top of that, I think as cyclists we're generally pretty inefficient runners, and which means that when we do run we can get quite a demand placed on the cardiovascular aerobic system. Plus there's more moving parts, so obviously on the bike it's mostly leg dominant, whereas with running it's all four limbs working, which means if we do an interval or some running, we can get a large cardiovascular demand placed on the system, which helps our aerobic conditioning and anaerobic conditioning if you are doing the interval stuff. Strength endurance, I think, is another big thing. The running cadences tends to be a bit slower, plus the running load is higher, so the actual force absorbed through the legs when we land each step is probably a lot more than we have when we're on the bike. So from a strength point of view, I think it has benefits. And probably lastly, I think the other major one is just connective tissue and soft tissue conditioning. So with running, once again, with that higher load, we are conditioning those connective tissues, etc., to absorb more load. So when we're on the bike, they can easily handle what we're doing.
Excellent. And do you think there's any negative effects, Mitch?
Definitely. I'd have to say that as a cyclist, don't I?
Let Combsy know that when we next catch up.
I think that one of the biggest ones is soreness. So as cyclists, we're not running conditioned, obviously, and with that extra load, we sometimes cannot tolerate the running. So you have to tread with caution there and have an appropriate program. I think from a movement point of view, it's a different movement, so it will have an effect on the efficiency of the cycling pattern. So you're not really going to be doing it in really important parts of the season, for example. And it's a slower movement is probably the other thing. So running cadence, although in the running world, we always try to work on higher cadences, it's still generally going to be a bit slower than cycling. So cycling might be 95 RPM, for example, the running might be 10, perhaps 20 lower than that. So it's that slower movement which has an effect on the bike.
And so when would you, if you're a cyclist, during the year, when would you program in some running if you were going to do so?
I think if you're a competitive cyclist, it has to be in your off-season or perhaps in between periods where you really taper off to perform well. So you're not really going to do it through a racing period. Or in a period where it's a really, really heavy training block on the bike. That running load might just push you over the edge. So yeah, off-season ideally when you're focusing on your strength and your base.
You've got more time to work on the transference of some of those things you talked about before.
Build into it a little bit more gradually so you don't get those soreness-related injuries, overuse injuries. And it's not gonna, and you can also have the appropriate recovery, so it's not affecting a performance of the race.
And what type of running? Is there any specifics in regards to the sort of running that you would do that you think crosses over nicely?
I actually think uphill stuff is really good. So stairs or hill climbing, I think that mimics the movement pattern of cycling more so than just flat cycling, flat running, sorry. So it would transfer onto the bike more. So I think definitely incorporating some of that, but you have to tread with caution going downhill then, just because you can get a bit more of those soreness impact-related injuries on the way down. But obviously We can also do some interval training as well, like I said earlier, and really get that cardiovascular demand up. But that would need to be supervised by someone who's experienced in that area to give